Hello, lovely people. You made it. How to open and run your first successful restaurant. So this video is kind of a little monologue about what made me decide to go out there and try to open and run my first successful restaurant. Here I am in the US, landing back in 1999 to pursue my education in finance. And I had a vision. I remember I made these little drawings. I thought about having a restaurant, and to me, America was a land of opportunity. And so here I am landing, and I was just amazed at how all the streets are horizontal and perpendicular. You may take it as a granted if you live in the new world, but in the old world, when they built a town, they were never expecting it to be as big as how it is nowadays. So the cities were always expanding. Thus, the city grows up in so many different directions versus New World with the experience from the past, with the city planning or whatnot, that allows them to be more organized and more feng shui, if you will. So here I come. I go to the first banker, and I remember vividly it was this gorgeous banker, red hair, green eyes, and she welcomed me. And here I am, 19, wearing tennis shoes, and saying, "Hey, I want money to open a restaurant." So she's very politely gives me an application. I fill it up, and she goes and she punches some things on her computer. I'm pretty sure she's going and pulling my credit report. And she's coming back with this very nice smile and says, "Young man, you have the ambition, but you have no money, you have no credit, and you have no experience. Come again." So for me at that time, there was a sense of relief because literally here I am coming to the US for the sake of getting educated. And here I was jumping right on an entrepreneurial experience that I had no idea the whats and ifs of it. All I knew is that hey, it was land of opportunity. I can make it happen. So it was a sense of relief to not have to worry about it. So I remember I was talking to my younger brother at the time, and I called him. I was like, "Well, bummer, we are not going to be able to make that restaurant happen because this is what we need." And all he said was, "Okay," and we hung up. And it took literally 8 years, 8 years of semi forgetting the dream. It was always in the back of our minds, but life pushed you to do other things, to go to school, to take homework, to have a job. I remember my first job being janitorial services in Cars Junior because my English was so poor, with all modesty. I mean, English still remains my fifth language. And I'm not taking any credit for it, because I have lots of admiration for people that go out there and actually enroll in classes to learn. No, it was not the case for this man. This gentleman right here, what he did is that he was just born into it. I was born in a culture where speaking 3 or 4 languages is pretty common due to our geographical location and the influences of many other different cultures. So I'm not taking credit for actually speaking all these languages. Spanish, however, is something that I did acquire by being in the industry. In California, I would say about 90% of the back of the house force, back of the house for the ones that are new to the industry, is pretty much anything that's related to the kitchen, what I like to call the end scene, the machine, the factory, the producers. And most of them do speak Spanish, and so I had to figure out a way to communicate with them, and it's not that hard. The same words keep on coming again and again and again, and you pretty much get used to it. So here I am, and 9 years after that, 8 years after 99, so back in 2008, in a moment when I least expected, I was in a position where I was a little bit smart with my savings. I did like the good life, I did like going out or whatnot, but I was always having a little cushion for savings. I went to where my education pushed me, into the financial world, and I was quite intelligent, if I may say so, with my savings. So I always saved. And long story short, I get to a point where I had a choice. I had the possibility to make a decision. And sometimes, if you're lucky in your life, there is a chance where you have the choice. Most of the time, you don't. Either you have bills, responsibilities, maybe you're married. Maybe there is so many different things that can hold you off. Not that marriage is a bad thing. On the contrary, having a good ally by your side, as I may talk about very soon, is like one of the best things that's gonna happen to you. So God bless you guys if you are married and work at it. I know it's work. So I had a choice, and it was either doing something that I have done before, which is get work for corporate America, get into a salary, be a W-2. W-2, for the one that are not from the US, is the form that you receive at the end of the year telling you what your earnings are, or try something completely different. And at that time, I was lucky to have what turns out to be my business partner and my brother. And believe me, doing business with family members is not a piece of cake, guys. Not at all. Far away from that. It actually can be extremely dangerous because you mix business with affection. And some of the time, both of them actually do not mix up. So that was definitely an amazing lesson there. So here I am talking to him and telling him, hey, you know what should we do? And he was like, hey, I remember the idea of the restaurant we had 8 years ago. And truth of the matter, I completely forgot about it. And that's how the dream came back. But the dream was always there, and it took 8 years to get into that position. And during that time, I know that my brother, who always had a passion for cooking, followed the hospitality industry. He was a waiter, ended up being a manager in one of the biggest restaurants here in the Silicon Valley that have like about, I would say, 600 to 700 covers a night. And he learned it, but he knew nothing about the kitchen operation, zero zilch. He was a good front of the house manager, but he knew pretty much nothing about the technicalities of the cooking, how to store the food, how to cook it, how to prepare it, how to develop the recipes. When you cook for 5 or 10 people for an event, it's not the same when you cook for 700 or 800 people every week. There is food safety, there is norms, there is code, and you're dealing with a complete different brand of employees. The back of the house employees do not end up having the same glamour as the front of the house. The front of the house most of the time are the pretty faces, the people that schmooze, that sell. But actually the hard workers are the people that are dealing back there in the kitchen with fire, with knives, with pressure, dealing with God knows how many different ingredients. And suddenly here is this client who comes in and he wants to change the recipe and remake their own recipe or whatnot. And especially if you're familiar with the California market, yes, it is true that the customer is king. I may disagree on that sometimes, but they're extremely demanding. They're extremely also knowledgeable. The Silicon Valley typical diner is somebody who is well traveled, who will spend money for his dining experience, who is extremely careful about what goes inside his body, the quality, the freshness, the preparation, and they're very familiar about all the new trends, whether paleo diets or somebody who is fully vegetarian or vegan or raw, and they know their ingredients. You cannot just BS your way out of a dish. I mean, he will literally tell you which ingredients you have used in your dish. And so it was a very, very well educated guest that we had, and it was a learning experience. There were lots of challenges. We were on our own. Whenever we reached out to a company to help us, it was expensive, man. Any kind of script, any kind of form, any kind of legal advice was just like very, very expensive, and we could not afford it. All we had was a dream, and from the moment we decided to open a restaurant without any kind of preparation whatsoever besides our gut feeling, to the moment we had the keys to our first restaurant, 45 days. Can you really be ready for business in 45 days? I wish I had a little bit more visibility. And this is what these courses are for. If you have some kind of visibility, or maybe this is just a dream, you may not open a restaurant, but there is so many things that you can learn about life in general just by being in the hospitality industry. If it was up to me, instead of putting people in military service, like in certain countries I'm not going to mention, put people to be waiters. It's amazing. The high level and frequency of human interaction will give you skills that no college or university will give you out there. It's not about just knowledge, it's the application of knowledge. You have to develop an amazing emotional intelligence, read people. And literally, the more you're in the industry, the more you develop a kind of a sixth sense, like an instinct. And at the end of the day, seems like we are all one, you know, like you can, there is, I'm not going to talk about profiling, but guests will remind you of other guests, people will remind you of other people, and you learn to be more sensitive what people want, you know. And what people want is not just answers, you know, they want to feel warm, especially coming from a place like Silicon Valley, where everybody is like behind their computer, like what you are right now, you know, acquiring knowledge, or not even that fun, actually just developing programs, following code, not developing whatsoever kind of social skills. And here they are coming for a dining experience. And you do teach, you know, you do teach your guests about their dining experience to guide them. So it was a challenge, man. You know how many times we get scammed. I remember one of the vivid things. You know, we had to have the restaurant ready to go in 45 days, from cleaning to code to parts to inspections to credit card processing to drinks to food, and dealing with all these vendors. And every single one of those vendors are very, very talented salespeople. And here we are. All we had a dream was a dream, and literally at the mercy of sharks. And I'm sorry for calling salespeople sharks, but you know what? When they see somebody with no experience, you know, some people will be kind enough to go out there and say, you know what, I want your success. You know, and some people will be like that, you know. You can feel it. You can feel it through the way they talk, etc. But lots of people out there are just there for the commission, you know. They know that the most restaurants are not going to last for more than 2 years or 3 years. So, hey, why not ride them for 2 or 3 years? By the time they realize what's going wrong, but they're automatically already out of business. And there is more and more professionals that are more ethical and more on that, on how to recognize them or whatnot. But after 1 year of operation, when the dust was finally able to settle down, I opened the books. I looked at our linen company. I looked at our silverware company, the flour company, the credit card company, the insurance company, the accountants. I mean, every single service, every single person I was sending a check to, I took the time to do my research and check what the market's rates were. And guys, that was a shocker. We were so taken advantage of, you know, and I'm not talking by 5% or 10% or 20%. I mean, in certain instances, by 100%, 150%, you know, like product that we didn't need, you know, and that was lack of professionalism from the part of the profession that we're dealing with, but we did not know any better. You know, and we're just busy. And I wish somebody was out there that I can send a quick question and say, hey, you know what should we do in this thing? You know, and you know, and for sure, when you open your first restaurant, the ego trip goes into it. You know, you want to make it as fancy as possible and as impressive as possible. But at the end of the day, this is a tool that's going to help you make money, create jobs, educate people, convey your identity, maybe your culture, maybe you stand for. This is like your kind of, you know, like when you go to this is a little joke, when you go to a man's house and he's married and, he, for example, he has like a 2 bedrooms. Most of the time when they have more than 2 bedrooms, guess what? There is always the man's room, you know. All the other rooms in the house belong to the lady, but then there is the man's room. So think about the restaurant as this oasis, you know, that you are creating to talk about what you think matters, a place where you enjoy being and that you believe other people will enjoy being there too. You know, lots of people get into the restaurant industry and having no idea what it is, and it's all in the name. Restaurants. The restaurant has the word rest in it. It's a place where people can come and replenish. And lots of people don't understand that. The wait staff doesn't understand it. The owners don't understand it. The guests themselves don't understand that the purpose by getting there is to have a quality time. And I know lots of them have lots of things, luggage that they're bringing to the restaurants, and it is part of your mission to facilitate that. I'm not saying that you're going to have to be a psychologist, but guess what? This industry will give you an insight about increasing your emotional intelligence. You know, you're going to make lots of mistakes and it is normal, but I so wished there was a course like the one I'm working on right now to just tell to people you don't need to spend lots of money. You just have to be smart, be fast, ask the right questions. Don't listen to everybody, you know. There's going to be lots of fun things. For example, you know, it's lots of time people ask me, Sham, there is all these networking events. Should I go to them? Should I just hang out with these people and take them out and things of the kind? For some, yes, others not. But there is lots of wasted time in such kind of activity that are not productive, but they're gonna make you happy. You know, excuse me. When you're the owner of a restaurant, like there is this movie. I'm gonna make an analogy to it. It's called Scarface. If you haven't seen Scarface, you have to be at least 17, I think, to watch it. But it's like this gentleman who comes from Cuba and becomes like this drug lord emperor and things of the kind, coming from nowhere and attaining the highest of highs. And there is a line where he says, first you get the money, then you get the power, then you get the women. So everybody wants to go through that thing. And, when you own a restaurant, when you're an owner, self-employed, a lot of people look at you and say, oh, I wish I was like him. And it's perfectly fair. But it is a responsibility. There is ethics involved in it. You're going to be teaching a lot of people. You're going to have people that may not be as educated as you. You're going to meet people that are going to be more educated than you. You're just going to meet a lot of people, and you need to have that passion for people. Now, do you need to be extrovert in order to open a restaurant? Or Sham, I'm an introvert. So am I made to open a restaurant? It's all about finding your right path. You can make that restaurant whatever you want to be. I have a friend of mine who has this vegan cafe, and she's all about Zen energy. People come in, there is no friction, everything is Zen, everything is organic, the menu is very simple, and she's making a killing. Then I have another friend of mine who is actually having a fine dining restaurant, and when everything has to be to perfection, a higher level of stress, but it makes him happy. He likes the challenge and things of the kind. So the restaurant is not meant for introverted and extroverted people. It can be for both. It's just a platform that can allow you to pretty much spread a certain culture. And if done right, with the right tools, all the forms, all the teachings, how to hire, how to fire, how to do your drink menu, and real life situations, this customer comes in, he's completely drunk, how should I handle him? All these things that I had to learn the hard way, because guess what? There was no training available out there in the marketplace. And the people that will provide me this kind of training were just very expensive. I just could not afford them. And and I wanted to get the information that I wanted. I don't want people to come to me and tell me, what, Sham, here it is, you're gonna buy this, but you have to buy everything else. No, I really wanted to get what I needed, and I wanted to offer that. This is pretty much what this course is going to be about. It hasn't started yet. The course is not ready yet. I'm building it pieces by pieces, and I want to give the option for people to literally get what they need. You may currently have a restaurant that is not working as well as you want. This course is going to be an amazing refresher for it, and you don't have to buy the entire shebang. If you just want to focus on, hey, your waiter training or your catering sales, or the technique for expansion, is it the right time for me to expand? What about my exit strategy? There is lots of people out there that are hurting in the restaurant industry. It does not have to cost lots of money. And in case, God forbid, you get to a point where things are not working right, what is the right way to exit a certain business? There is a proper way to do it, to minimize damages to your employees, to your team, to your community, and to yourself. Lots of people tell me, oh, you need lots of money. There is restaurant owners out there that are hurting, and all they want is to get out of the lease. They have the keys in their hand, and they're going to be like, listen, you're ready to come in, give me a symbolic amount, 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, and it's all yours. Get it. I want out of it, because they were burned, because they did not have access to that knowledge. And this is something that I'm very excited to be working on, to be sharing with you, to your success. I can go on and on this experience. And instead of boring you to death, we're almost reaching 20 minutes of this podcast, aka video. And to your success. I hope to hear about you, to hear about your knowledge. Whether you sign up or not for the course does not matter, because I give lots of free information just because I know what the hustle is. And I will see you on the flip side, winning, smiling, and remember, the secret ingredient is love.